So today we are picking up in First Kings, and this is actually our last chapter in the book of First Kings. So we're going to close out the year by closing out this book of First Kings. And if you remember, we're kind of going through this whole concept story of Ahab and all of his issues and things that he has going on, and his acting as the scripture called the worst king in the line of kings in the kings of Israel. And we also saw in the last chapter that he got hit by God so hard that he began to humble himself. All right. Good morning, Beverly. We're on 1 Kings chapter 22.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Not to interrupt you, I'm just saying.
No, right. Yes, happy birthday. Oh, it's your birthday?
It's my birthday.
Well, happy
Good morning,
birthday.
everyone.
Birthday.
Thank you.
All right. Well, you another December birthday, huh?
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. That's beautiful. Good, beautiful. All right. So once again, First Kings chapter 22. And so, as we stated, we're following along with Ahab, and Ahab has had some. He's a wicked man. Number one, the Bible calls him the wickedest king that there ever was. He's married to this awful woman called Jezebel, and the whole name and the concept of Jezebel is just personified in the awareness of just evil that comes from that name. And we see the name all the way out into the book of Revelation, where it talks about how you let this spirit or this woman that has the spirit of Jezebel to teach and to instruct the people, and how God is not approved of that. And so we see Ahab being confronted and told about his evilness. And then we saw in the last chapter that Ahab humbled himself before God. God told him that he was going to die similar in a way that Nabal, who he let his wife put to death, and his blood was spilled in the city, that God said, you're going to die the same way. And the same way the dogs licked up Nabal's blood, this is how the dogs will lick up your blood. And he began to humble himself. And God said, God said he noticed the humility of Ahab. And then I asked a question last week. I said, do you think Ahab is truly repentant? Do you think he's real? And I was kind of like, it's a possibility he could be, but we're going to get the real answer today. And what we're going to see is Ahab went right back to, even though he humbled himself, for a time. And that's what we see with most people. They humble themselves for a time when God's rebuke and God's chastisement comes upon them. But then eventually the people sometimes just go back to who they are in their heart. Okay, and that's something we should keep in mind. So we'll see how Ahab actually goes back to his normal ways. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get the reading in. As I stated, it's a long chapter. We got about, I think, 53 verses here. But if the Lord say the same, we'll try to get through all of these. Let's take a listen. 1 Kings chapter 22.
Chapter 22. And they continued 3 years without war between Syria and Israel. And it came to pass in the 3rd year that Jehoshaphat the king of Judah came down to the king of Israel. And the king of Israel said unto his servants,
Know ye that Ramoth in Gilead is ours? And we will still and take it not out of the hand of the king of Syria.
And he said unto Jehoshaphat,
Wilt thou go with me to battle to Ramoth Gilead?
And Jehoshaphat said to the king of Israel, I am as thou art, my people as thy people, my horses as thy horses. And Jehoshaphat said unto the king of Israel, Inquire, I pray thee, at the word of the Lord today. Then the king of Israel gathered the prophets together, about 400 men, and said unto them,
Shall I go against Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall I forbear?
And they said,
Go up, for the Lord shall deliver it into the hand of the king.
And Jehoshaphat said,
Is there not here a prophet of the Lord besides, that we might inquire of him?
And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat,
There is yet one man, Micaiah the son of Imlah, by whom we may inquire of the Lord. but I hate him. For he doth not prophesy good concerning me, but evil.
And Jehoshaphat said, Let not the king say so. Then the king of Israel called an officer, and said,
Hasten hither, Micaiah the son of Imlah.
And the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat the king of Judah sat each on his throne, having put on their robes, in a void place in the entrance of the gate of Samaria. And all the prophets prophesied before them. And Zedekiah the son of Kenana made him horns of iron. And he said,
Thus saith the Lord, With these shalt thou push the Syrians until thou have consumed them.
And all the prophets prophesied so, saying, Go up to Ramoth-Gilead and prosper, for the Lord shall deliver it into the king's hand. And the messenger that was gone to call Micaiah spake unto him, saying,
Behold now, the words of the prophets declare good unto the king with one mouth. Let thy word, I pray thee, be like the word of one of them, and speak that which is good.
And Micaiah said, As the Lord liveth, what the Lord saith unto me, that will I speak. So he came to the king, and the king said unto him,
Micaiah, shall we go against Ramoth-Gilead to battle, or shall we forbear?
And he answered him, Go and prosper, for the Lord shall deliver it into the hand of the king. And the king said unto him,
How many times shall I adjure thee, that thou tell me nothing but that which is true in the name of the Lord?
And he said, Sir, I saw all Israel scattered upon the hills, as sheep that have not a shepherd. And the Lord said, These have no master. Let them return every man to his house in peace. And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat,
Did I not tell thee that he would prophesy no good concerning me, but evil?
And he said, Hear thou therefore the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting on his throne, and all the host of heaven standing by him on his right hand and on his left. And the Lord said, Who shall persuade Ahab that he may go up and fall at Ramoth-Gilead? And one said on this manner, and another said on that manner. And there came forth a spirit, and stood before the Lord, and said, I will persuade him. And the Lord said unto him, Wherewith? And he said, I will go forth, and I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. And he said, Thou shalt persuade him, and prevail also. Go forth, and do so. Now therefore, behold, the Lord hath put a lying spirit in the mouth of all these thy prophets, and the Lord hath spoken evil concerning thee. But Zedekiah the son of Kenana went near, and smote Micaiah on the cheek, and said,
Which way went the Spirit of the Lord from me to speak unto thee?
And Micaiah said, Behold, thou shalt see in that day when thou shalt go into an inner chamber to hide thyself. And the king of Israel said,
Take Micaiah, and carry him back unto Ammon, the governor of the city, and to Joash the king's son, and say, Thus saith the king, Put this fellow in prison, and feed him with bread of affliction, and with water of affliction, until I come in peace.
And Micaiah said, If thou return at all in peace, the Lord hath not spoken by me. And he said, Hearken, O people, every one of you. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat the king of Judah went up to Ramoth-Gilead. And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat,
I will disguise myself and enter into the battle, but put thou on thy robes.
And the king of Israel disguised himself and went into the battle. But the king of Syria commanded his 32 captains that had rule over his chariot, saying, Fight neither with small nor great, save only the king of Israel. And it came to pass, when the captains of the chariots saw Jehoshaphat, that they said,
Surely it is the king of Israel.
And they turned aside to fight against him. And Jehoshaphat cried out. And it came to pass, when the captains of the chariots perceived that it was not the king of Israel, that they turned back from pursuing him. And a certain man drew a bow at a venture, and smote the king of Israel between the joints of the harness. Wherefore he said unto the driver of his chariot,
Turn thine hand, and carry me out of the host, for I am wounded.
And the battle increased that day, and the king was stayed up in his chariot against the Syrians, and died at even. And the blood ran out of the wound into the midst of the chariot. And there went a proclamation throughout the host about the going down of the sun, saying, Every man to his city, and every man to his own country. So the king died and was brought to Samaria, and they buried the king in Samaria. And one washed the chariot in the pool of Samaria, and the dogs licked up his blood, and they washed his armor according unto the word of the Lord which he spake. Now the rest of the acts of Ahab, and all that he did, and the ivory house which he made, and all the cities that he built, are they not written in the book of the chronicles of the kings of Israel? So Ahab slept with his fathers, and Ahaziah his son reigned in his stead. And Jehoshaphat the son of Asa began to reign over Judah in the 4th year of Ahab king of Israel. Jehoshaphat was 35 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 25 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Azubah, the daughter of Shilhi. And he walked in all the ways of Asa his father. He turned not aside from it, doing that which was right in the eyes of the Lord. Nevertheless, the high places were not taken away, for the people offered and burnt incense yet in the high places. And Jehoshaphat made peace with the king of Israel. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoshaphat and his might that he showed, and how he warred, are they not written in the book of the chronicles of the kings of Judah? And the remnant of the Sodomites, which remained in the days of his father Asa, he took out of the land. There was then no king in Edom, a deputy was king. Jehoshaphat made ships of Tarshish to go to Ophir for gold, but they went not, for the ships were broken at Ezion-Geber. Then said Ahaziah the son of Ahab unto Jehoshaphat,
Let my servants go with thy servants in the ships.
But Jehoshaphat would not. And Jehoshaphat slept with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David his father. And Jehoram his son reigned in his stead. Ahaziah the son of Ahab began to reign over Israel in Samaria the 17th year of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, and reigned 2 years over Israel. And he did evil in the sight of the Lord, and walked in the way of his father, and in the way of his mother, and in the way of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. For he served Baal, and worshipped him, and provoked to anger the Lord God of Israel, according to all that his father had done.
All right. So, as you can see, as we close out this chapter here, that we have quite a bit of situations that we see even today. I read through this, and it marvels in my mind how much we as individuals have not grown, have not learned. We still do the very same things that we see in this chapter, we do it today. And why do we do that? Because we are just like them. The Bible says that all of us have been what? Born in sin and shaped in iniquity. So just like how these individuals of old had these ways about them, we got those ways today. And the thing is, will you and I admit it and then seek God? Now, you say, well, I don't got no ways. I'm not like these evil people. Well, we all are in certain ways. And we'll try to point that out. That's why we need God. See, the problem that sometimes we have is we think that we are already at a certain level where I don't really need God to correct me. I just need God to agree with me. And we need to not have that kind of a mindset. We should be focusing on allowing God to show us who we really are, which is sometimes something that we don't like. Now, in this story, we're going to see individuals that will be told the truth, and yet they still will decide to do what they want to do. A lot of times, this is how we can be. We can be told the truth, and we decide, I'm going to do what I want to do anyway. And we see people in this story who do not like to hear the truth. They want to hear what sounds good or what's popular. All right. And so these are just some overall constructs about what this chapter brings out. But let's get down to the nitty gritty and pull out each one of these constructs as we go through the chapter, each verse. So it starts off once again, 1 Kings chapter 22, and it starts off with the word and. As I have said so many times, in order to really comprehend what's going on in this particular chapter, you've had to been able to go through the previous chapters. And we saw what went on with Ahab and with Jezebel and with Nabal and all these different things, which leads up to this particular chapter. All right. And so it says, and they continued 3 years without war between Syria and Israel. Now, that's an important thing, because remember, Ahab and Syria, they were at war, and Ahab had lost. He had lost a battle, and he began to humble himself. And then what happened? 3 years went by. And in those 3 years, that humility that Ahab had kind of went away. And that's the thing about true repentance. Sometimes we saw in the last chapter how Ahab humbled himself. And sometimes we'll see a lot of people that seem like they decide to come to God. But one of the things that we realize is give it time.
Mhm.
Allow it to actually bring forth some real situations of this difficulty or circumstances, and then see how they act. Well, 3 years happened now. There's peace. All right. And look at what it says in verse 2. And it came to pass in the 3rd year of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, it came down to the king of Israel, that the king of Israel said unto the servants. Now he's got this thought in his mind after these 3 years. Know ye that Ramoth in Gilead is ours, and we be still and take it not out of the hand of the king of Assyria. So he's sitting there. There's been peace. But while there's been peace, he's now thinking, they still got some property of ours that we need to go and get back. Now, when you tried to war against them last time, you were unsuccessful. And why were you unsuccessful? Because God was not on your side. There were a lot of things that you said, well, I have the right to this, and I should have this, and this should be mine. And yet God is saying, no, you may think you should have the right to it, but I'm not going to give it to you. And so now Ahab, he has no longer had that spirit of what? Humility that he had previously. Now he's ready to go fight. All of a sudden he lost humility and got some kind of false bravery. And I'm going to go take back what's mine. All right. So he continues. All right. And then in verse 4, he says, and he said unto Jehoshaphat. So he now is also having this conversation with Jehoshaphat, who's the king of Judah. Now keep in mind, Israel is split in two. The north is still called Israel. The south is now called Judah. And Ahab is the king of the north, which is Israel. Jehoshaphat is king of the south, which is called Judah. And so now Ahab is talking to him. So they now also have peace. And they're talking one to another. And he said unto Jehoshaphat, wilt thou go with me to battle to Ramoth Gilead? And Jehoshaphat said unto the king of Israel, I am as thou, my people as thy people, my horses as thy horses. So Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, is like, yeah, I'll go with you. Now, that's another issue. All right, because Jehoshaphat knows that Ahab is a wicked man. He's married to an evil woman, has never listened to God. And yet Jehoshaphat is trying to do what? Maintain this friendship. I'm trying to keep this alliance. I'm trying to keep this peace. I'm trying to keep this connection. I don't want to, so everybody's trying to be, good and buddy and friendly and so forth. All nicey. All right. So let's see what happens. And sometimes it's good to know who your enemy is. It's good to know what's going on. All right. So, in verse 5, and Jehoshaphat said unto the king of Israel, inquire, I pray thee, at the word of the Lord today. Now, that's the difference between Ahab and Jehoshaphat. Now, even though Jehoshaphat is going to align himself with this wicked man, he still knows God. And he says to Ahab, but have you asked God? Now, Ahab is not going to ask God. And he would not have asked God unless Jehoshaphat told him to. And that's what happens here in verse 5. And so look at verse 6. Then the king of Israel, who was Ahab, gathered the prophets together. So now he said, since you're going to ask, I'm going to go get all my spiritual leaders. Not people of God, spiritual leaders. And you got a lot of people that are spiritual, a lot of people that are religious, but they do not serve God. And that's what Jehoshaphat went and got. He went and got all these prophets. Now, remember, previously, Elijah had done battle with false prophets. We saw that in several chapters before. He did battle with the prophets of Baal and the prophets of Ashtoreth. But now they done gathered together some more prophets again. All of them false. And so now the king of Israel, verse 6 again. Then the king of Israel gathered the prophets together, about 400 men, and said unto them, shall I go against Ramoth Gilead to battle, or I forbear, or shall I forbear? So he basically, should I go or not? So he's asking for spiritual or religious guidance. The problem is he's not asking God. Okay? And he said, and they said, go up, for the Lord will deliver it into thy hands. This is what the false prophets say. They said, go up. They're giving him what he wants to hear. That's one of the things that we still have today. Mm-hmm. People do not want to hear somebody that will disagree with what you want to do. Mm-hmm. I don't want you to tell me anything that's against me. Why do you disagree? Why do you say? And so these people, these false prophets, are clever enough. They're not spiritual enough, but they're clever enough to agree with what Ahab wants. And they're going to give Ahab what's in his heart. I don't want Ahab to feel bad. I don't want Ahab to feel mad. And they're going to give Ahab what he wants to hear. Let's keep going. Verse 7. And Jehoshaphat said, is there not here a prophet of the Lord besides, that we may inquire of him? Now, Jehoshaphat recognizes this is a bunch of spiritual slop. This is not the way God would do stuff. And so he said, do you got a real prophet? All right? And if you got a real prophet, can we at least inquire of him? And so look at verse 8. And the king of Israel, this is Ahab, said unto Jehoshaphat, there is yet one man, Micaiah, son of Imlah, by whom we may inquire of the Lord. Now look at this. Let's pause there. Ahab knows there is a real truth teller from God. Why doesn't Ahab listen to this man? And why is there only one? Because the people in the north, the people of Israel, the people under Ahab's kingdom, do not want to hear from God. They want to do what they want to do. But let's keep going. Let's see what's going on with this guy, Micaiah. All right. And it says, and he says, by whom we may inquire of the Lord. But look at what Ahab says. But I hate him. See, some people hate the truth. Micaiah represents truth. He's going to tell the truth. And that's all prophecy is. Prophecy is truth telling. We all have the gift of prophecy to some degree or another. All right. A prophecy can be telling the truth about what are you going to do tomorrow. And you can say, well, if the Lord says the same, I plan on doing such and such tomorrow. That's prophecy. That's truth telling. That's what you're going to do. We all have that gift. All right. We all have it. Now, some people have it to more of an extent. They can see, well, I can't see what I plan to do, but I can see this plus that equals this. This is going to be the outcome. If you go this way, this is how it's going to all. And some people have the ability to add circumstances and things together. Micaiah is getting his understanding, his being able to put circumstances together as a gift from God. And he's going to tell Ahab what's going to happen. But watch what he does first. Let's take a look.
You want some hot water?
No, I'm good for now. So look at what he says. Verse 9. Then the king of Israel called an officer and said, hasten hither Micaiah, son of Imlah. So they're going to go get this man. Why do they got to go get him? Because he wasn't invited to the party. He wasn't invited to the gathering. He's locked up. That's what a lot of times people do. They isolate, lock out, and cast out people that tell the truth from God. Remember, prophecy is just truth telling. I'm just trying to tell you what I see that is true. Now, they don't like that. Verse 10. And the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, sat each on his throne, having put on their robes in a void place in the entrance of the gate of Samaria, and all the prophets prophesied before them. Now, what does this mean? Verse 10 is telling you they're all in their pomp and circumstance celebration. The two kings are sitting on these thrones. They got all their kingly garb on, and everybody, and they're just sitting there being all impressive, and everybody's there just going about trying to impress them. All right, you know how people act, and that's why I say the things we see in this chapter we see today. When very important or powerful people come around, how people just start ooling and googling over people. Let somebody super famous come to your town and watch how many people show up and start trying to do and all, how the mayor and the governors or whatever is, they just come out and they try to make everything all just so wonderful for pomp and circumstance, trying to impress. And that's what's going on here. All right. So now the two kings are sitting up there with all their kingly garb on. They got the throne set up, and everybody's all set for this wonderful decision that we're going to go and get back our land. We're going to get back what belongs to us. This whole mindset is going through the whole community. Verse 11. And Zedekiah, the son of Cheniel, made him horns of iron. Now, he made out of iron the image of horns. Now, what does horns represent? They always represent power. All right, and so we'll see that a lot when we go through some more of these prophets, and these represent authority and power. And so he made horns of iron, and iron once again is also power. So double power. All right, and so his prophecy is deep. We're double power because we got Ahab and we got Jehoshaphat, and we got two kings, and we got two horns, and they got horns and iron, and we're going. And so his prophecy has got all this stuff built into it, all these metaphorical concepts, but they're still false. They're still not true. But he brings forth something visible that people can see. Remember how Aaron made the calf of gold, something that people can see. All right, but the Bible tells us we walk by faith, not by what? Not by sight. And you can always tell people want to see certain things. That's how a lot of times you know that, you're not walking out of faith, you're walking out of your own concepts and your own understanding. So he brings forth this visible image and said, "Thus saith the Lord." He's lying on God because God didn't tell Zedekiah a single thing. A lying spirit did, which we'll find out here in a minute. He said, "Thus saith the Lord, with these shall thou push the Syrian in unto they have consumed them." You're going to use these symbols and you're going to push them until they are consumed. That's not going to happen. But that's what he says. And he says God told him to do it and made these images for people to see as representatives. Lying prophets still. And what? He's doing it in agreement with what everybody else is doing. We're having a good day. I'm just adding to the festivities. Let's keep going. Verse 12. And all the prophets prophesied so, saying, "Go up to Ramoth Gilead and prosper, for the Lord shall deliver it unto the king's hand." Everybody's agreeing. Nobody's disagreeing. Everybody's in unity. Sometimes you need a dissenting voice that will at least tell the truth. I know you don't want to hear it. I know you don't want to hear what I got to say, but I'm going to tell the truth anyway. You need somebody that's going to do that, but not here. We're not going to stop our celebration. We're not going to stop all of this a joyous gathering and all this rah 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 that we got, that we're going to go and defeat the Syrians and gain back our property. We're not going to stop all of this. We're going to keep it going. All right, let's see what happens. Verse 13. And the messenger that was gone to call Micaiah spake unto him. Now the messenger that went to get Micaiah is telling Micaiah what's going on. He spake unto him, saying, behold, now the word of the prophets declare good unto the king with one mouth. Everybody's saying the same thing, and everybody is being positive. Everybody's being in agreement with one mouth. All right. He said, let thy words, I pray thee, be like the words of the ones of them. So he's saying, just agree with them. Can you just agree with us one time? Why do you always have to disagree? So the messenger knows you always got something different than what the prophet said. Can you agree? Because what's the problem? Nobody wants to hear that one dissenting voice. Well, let me tell you what I see, and you're not going to like it, but I see something a little different. I see ways that we can actually do better by not going than to go. And yet, they want to all go to war. They all want to go fight Assyria. But there's going to be a prophet that's going to say, I don't think it's a good idea. They don't want to hear that. All right. And so he said, let thy words, I pray thee, be like the words of the ones that went and speak good. Look at verse 14. And Micaiah said, as the Lord liveth, what the Lord saith unto me, that will I speak.
Amen.
And sometimes you just got, what did God put in you? That's what's got to what? Come out of you. You got to be what God has given. And God gave Micaiah the ability to tell the truth, to tell what's going to happen. And he could see it accurately. All right. And yet they want him to what? Just agree. Just come on. Just, can you just keep everybody in a good mood? Why are you going to bring a downer on the rest of the party? Verse 15. So he came to the king, and the king said unto him, Micaiah, shall we go against Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall we forbear? And he answered him. Look at what Micaiah says, kind of sarcastically. Look what he says. Go and prosper, for the Lord shall deliver it into the hand of the king. That's what he tells him. That's what you want to hear. So he told him initially exactly what he wanted to hear. But you know what? Ahab knows the difference. That's one thing that's kind of sad. Ahab knows Micaiah is just placating him. He knows it. And Micaiah knows that Ahab knows. All right? And so look at verse 16. And the king said unto him, how many times? So this means this is not the first time. Micaiah tried to tell Ahab stuff before and decided, I'm just going to agree with the guy. And Ahab told him before, tell me what God says. Don't just try to make me feel good or make me happy. Tell me what you feel God has told you. Give me the truth. That says something about Ahab. He does not want the truth. He wants what? What's going to make me feel good about myself and about my decisions. All right. So the king said unto him, how many times shall I adjure thee that thou tell me nothing but that which is true in the name of the Lord? So he said, all right, you're going to tell me what's true or not? I know you're just trying to make me feel good by agreeing with all of us here.
Then he knew that wasn't the truth.
Of course he did. Mm-hmm. He did. But he wants to do what's in him, not what's in God. That's what Ahab. And he wants everybody to agree. And the thing is, what is Ahab? Who rules Ahab? Ahab does, not God. So therefore, Ahab, he wants God to come on his side. Ahab wants God to join him. And that's what he's hoping that Micaiah will tell him. God's going to join you. But no, we have to do what? We got to join God. But sometimes we don't like it because God is telling us, but I don't want you to do this particular thing. I want you to listen to this truth. And a lot of times we don't want that truth. All right. Verse 17. And he said, now tell me what's true. And look at verse 17. Look at what Micaiah said. And he said, I saw all Israel scattered upon the hill. Now, what does scattered mean? That means they're not informed. They're not lined up like an army is supposed to be. They're not organized like an army. They are scattered on the hill as sheep that have no shepherd. You have no shepherd, that means you have no leader. What does that mean? If you have no leader, that means your king or your leader is gone. That basically is saying Ahab's going to die. All right. And that's also a prophecy that was spoken about what would happen to the followers of Jesus. When Jesus is taken captive, and then he's going to be put to death. And it said that his followers were like sheep without a what? Without a shepherd. All right. All right. And so he says, as sheep that have not a shepherd, and the Lord saith, these have no master. In other words, they're not following anybody that has truth. Let them return every man to his house in peace. They're going to come back home without a victory. The only way the fighting will stop is if you just stop fighting and go home. You're not going to get the land back. You're not going to defeat Ramoth Gilead. God is not giving it into your hand. Verse 18. And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, did I not tell thee that he would prophesy no good concerning me but evil? And that's the problem. Ahab sees it as evil prophecy because it hurts his feelings. He doesn't want to hear that. It's breaking up the party. It's causing that whole atmosphere of like celebration, all that pomp and circumstance. He's throwing cold water on it. Right? And he calls it evil when no, it's really the truth. And bringing it back to, like I said before, so much of what we see here is what we see in our day today. People get mad when somebody tells them the truth. They don't want to hear it. But I see this from what I understand from what the gifts that God. No, I don't want to hear that. Can you just agree? Can you just say, can you be positive and agreeable and party one time with us? Verse 19, and he said, hear thou therefore the word of the Lord. This is Micaiah speaking again. I saw the Lord sitting on his throne, and all the hosts of heaven standing by him on his right hand and on his left. Similar to, remember in the book of Job, when God called all of the angels and different ones, the sons of God. And look at verse 20. And this is kind of a prophetic, parabolic kind of talking, because it's going to talk about God asking questions and want to know how. We know God doesn't ask a question because he doesn't know the answer, or he's trying to find out a way because he doesn't know the way. He's just allowing individuals to speak their truth. It's kind of like how God knows all of us. He knows our heart. He knows whether we're going to end up in eternity with him or we're going to be rejected. He knows that before we were born. But he lets it play out anyway. So number one, you will know it. Because God can say, you are an evil person or you are a good person. You can, I haven't done any evil, nor have I done any good. How do you know? Well, God knows all things. But what he does is let you learn it. You're going to live out so you will know why. Plus, the judgment that God will put against you, be it good or bad, all of eternity will know. The angels, the seraphims, all of the individuals that have ever been created will now see what God already knew. See, that's the beauty of what God is doing. He's allowing us to play out what's in our heart that he already knows. All right. And so in verse 20, it says, and the Lord said, who shall persuade Ahab? He knows Ahab doesn't want to follow the truth that comes from God. He knows Ahab is looking for a way to feel justified to follow something other than God. And so this is a picture that Micaiah is painting that of a conversation or an acting out that happened in the spiritual realm. Who shall persuade Ahab that he may go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? And one on this man, and one said on this manner, and another said on that manner. All right. And verse 21, and there came forth a spirit and stood before the Lord and said, I will persuade him. And the Lord said unto him, wherewith? And he said, I will go forth, and I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. And he said, thou shalt persuade him and prevail. Also, go forth and do so. Now, somebody may pause and say, well, did God tell this spiritual being to go be a lying spirit? No, this was already a lying spirit. Remember when the devil came before God in the book of Job? When the devil came, he was already the devil. All right, but he presented himself as ways that he could deceive and make Job curse God, but he was unsuccessful. This particular gathering, a lying spirit comes in and says, this is what I can do to Ahab, but this time God says, you will succeed. See, God told the devil about Job, you won't succeed. He's going to still serve me. But God is telling this lying spirit, yeah, you're going to be successful. He's going to believe you. All right. So and why does God say this? Because number one, God knew Job's heart, but he also knows Ahab's heart. And he knows all Ahab is looking for is somebody that will lie to him, sound a little spiritual, sound a little religious, but he will follow him. And that happens to us a lot. A lot of times we don't really want to follow the God of the Bible, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We want to follow something that sounds a little religious, something that sounds a little spiritual, and we want to follow that instead of following Scripture.
Yeah.
All right, and so he said, go forth, you're going to prevail. 23. Now therefore, behold, the Lord hath put a lying spirit in the mouth of all thy prophets. Now, Micaiah is telling Ahab, your prophets are lying prophets. He's telling them, and he's telling the prophets to their face. He's telling all those 400 prophets, you a liar, you a liar, you a liar, and you a liar. He's just calling them all out. He's saying they're all liars. All right? He says, now
don't be pointing at them.
He says, now therefore, behold, the Lord hath put a lying spirit in the mouth of all these thy prophets, and the Lord hath spoken evil concerning thee. Now, one of the prophets don't like this. Look what 24. But Zedekiah, the son of Shemanah, went near and smote Mordecai. I told you there was going to be some more smacking going on. He smote Micaiah on the cheek. He went and slapped the man and said, which way went the Spirit of the Lord from me to speak unto thee? He said, and now look at this. So Zedekiah is like, I speak for God. Now he's gotten so mad that he got violent. See, that's one of the things you can recognize when people, they're in their own self. I'm going to get violent. I'm going to put my hands on you because you telling me the truth that I don't want to hear. And that lying spirit that's in him, don't want to hear it either. All right, because where did this come from? It came from a spiritual concept, but not the Spirit of God. And boy, can we confuse the two. So he went and put his hands on him. He went and slapped him on the cheek and said, I speak for God. When did the Spirit of God leave me and go to you? It never was in you, brother. It never was there. 25. And Micaiah said, behold, thou shalt see in the day when thou shalt go into an inner chamber and hide thyself. He said, you're gonna recognize that I told you the truth when you went and tried to hide after the war goes bad and Israel begins to lose. All right? And so Micaiah is saying, I've also got a vision of what's going to happen to you. So he tells them that. You're going to go hide yourself. Verse 26. And the king of Israel said, take Micaiah and carry him back to Ammon the governor of the city, and to Joash, the king's son. So basically saying, take the truth teller, or take the truth and remove it away from me. I don't want to hear the truth. That's a problem, once again, that we have in our day today. Yes, this is thousands of years ago, but we have it here today. People want to hear what they want to hear. They don't care. Lie to me. They get politicians. Lie to me. Tell me what I want to hear. You know that's not going to happen. You know this guy's not going to make things better. But you want to hear it anyway, and you believe a lie. The Bible says that people will believe a lie and be damned. People love hearing what they want to hear. So they take Micaiah back, and look what it says in 27. And say, thus saith the king, put this fellow in prison. We're going to lock up the truth. That's what they did with Jesus. They gathered Jesus and locked him up. And then what did Jesus, when he was incarcerated, he said to Pilate, for this cause came I into the world to bear witness to the what? To the truth. But the truth was being held captive by the Roman government. And here's Micaiah being held captive. He's speaking truth. People don't like the truth, especially when it is not agreeable or pleasant. Why can't you just agree with me one time? Why do you always got to be against? Well, the truth is not welcome in those kind of situations. And then not only that, and feed him bread of affliction and water of affliction. I'm going to treat him kind of bad. Now you're telling me the truth. I'm gonna imprison you, and I'm not gonna treat you. I'm not gonna give you good food. I'm not gonna give you good water. I'm a good things to drink. I'm gonna give you bread of affliction and water of affliction until I come in peace. But look at 28. Micaiah is not done. And Micaiah said, if thou return at all in peace, the Lord have not spoken by me. He's letting know. Look, if you come back, if you don't die out in battle, then God hasn't spoken to me. You go ahead and do it. Let the evidence tell the truth. We'll see what's going to truly happen. If you come back, then I'm a liar. But if you don't come back, I spoke by the words of God. All right. He says, and let me read 28 and go right into 29. And Micaiah said, if thou return at all in peace, and the Lord has not spoken by me, and he said, hearken, O people, every one of you. 29. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, went up to Ramoth Gilead. Now I have to pause there. Why are they still going? And why is Jehoshaphat going? He asks, is there really a king, if there really is a prophet of God? Jehoshaphat heard it. But now he still goes up. Sometimes when you got these bands together, it's hard to break loose. Right? Birds of a feather flock together. And so now he's trying to keep the peace and agreement that he has now. Judah and Israel are kind of getting along, and Jehoshaphat don't want to break that. So he's going to go with them. He's already promised them, my people will be like your people. My war horses will be your war horses. I'm going to go with you. But they've already been told by God it's not going to turn out good. But they go anyway. Verse 30. And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, I will disguise myself and enter into the battle. Now, Ahab saying, I'm not going to go up looking like a king. I'm going to hide myself so that the Syrian army won't recognize me and they won't kill me. Now, because Micaiah said I'm going to die, but I'm going to act like I'm running regular soldiers. So they're going to all look for me, but they're not going to find me. He's got a scheme. He's slick. He's going to outsmart the word and the truth of God. There's a lot of people think like that. He said, I will disguise myself and enter into battle. But look what he tells Jehoshaphat. But put thou on thy robes. You go out looking like the king. And the king of Israel disguised himself and went into battle. They're going out. They're going to do what they want to do. 31. And the king of Assyria, now this is what the enemy king, the one they're fighting against, commanded his 32 captains that had rule over his chariots, saying, fight neither with small nor great, save only with the king of Israel. So he already got in him the notion, the only thing I want to do is kill Ahab. That's all I'm concerned about. I want Ahab dead. That's what the king of Syria is saying. I go past all these small or even these great captains, kill Ahab. Okay? So he's got in his heart, that's what he wants to do. But Ahab has what? Disguised himself. He looks like a regular soldier. It's hard to find him. 32. And it came to pass when the captains of the chariot saw Jehoshaphat that they said, surely it is the king of Israel. And they turned aside to fight against him. And Jehoshaphat cried out. Now, it doesn't tell you what he cried. I can imagine. He's like, oh, God, help me. Because he believed in God.
Yeah, right.
Right? But he cried out. Why? Because he was the only one in the whole battle that looked like a king. And they mistakenly thought he was Ahab.
You think it sounded like Ahab set him up, though?
Oh, he did, without a doubt.
Yeah, he set him up.
He set him up.
That's what he did.
He definitely set him up. Verse 33. And it came to pass when the captains of the chariots perceived that it was not the king of Israel, that they turned back from pursuing him. Why? Because the king of Syria said, don't go after anybody but Ahab. So this ain't Ahab, leave him alone. Let's go find Ahab. And they couldn't find him. Why? Because he was disguised. But take a look at verse 34. And a certain man drew a bow at adventure. In other words, what is at adventure? It means just randomly. He just said, I got one arrow left. Let me just put this thing on my bow and just sling it in the air, see whoever it hits. This thing had Ahab's name written on it. This was the first evidence of a guided missile. This was headed.
Yeah, right.
This was headed straight for Ahab. Okay. A certain man drew a bow at adventure and smote the king of Israel between the joints of the harness. Now he had on armor, but it went in between. Not only did it find him, but it also found that little spot in between the little open and got right into him. And between the joints of his harness, wherefore he said to his driver of his chariot, turn thy hand, in other words, go a different way, and carry me out of the host, for I am wounded. All right, he said, I'm wounded. All right, but he's actually wounded where? Unto death. 35. And the battle increased that day, and the king was stayed up in his chariot against Syria and died that evening. So he died in his chariot. Now remember, the prophecy said that Ahab was going to die in the same town that Nabal died, and the dogs were going to lick up his blood. But his blood is not falling on the ground. His blood is falling in his chariot. How is God's initial prophecy that we watched last chapter going to actually happen? Let's keep reading. All right. 36. And there went a proclamation throughout the host about the going down of the sun, saying, every man to his city and every man to his own country. That's what Micaiah said, right? They all, because they what? They were going to be like sheep without a shepherd, and they're all going to come back to their own house, right? Okay, that's already happened. That prophecy of Micaiah is now being fulfilled. 37. So the king died and was brought to Samaria. Oh, that's where Nabal was when he got stoned. All right. And there they buried the king in Samaria. And one washed his chariot. Why are they washing his chariot? Because his chariot, they want to get the blood out. And it says, and one washed his chariot in the pool of Samaria, and the dogs licked up his blood. What happened? The blood came off the chariot and came where? Onto the ground.
The ground.
And the dogs licked up his blood. That fulfills the prophecy that was stated before about what's going to happen to Ahab. And they washed his armor according to the word of the Lord which he had spake. All right. So now we see Micaiah told the truth. No matter how much they disliked it, no matter how much they didn't want to hear it, it was still true. And a lot of times we all have truth in us. People don't want to hear it, but sometimes you don't want I don't want to make nobody feel bad. We don't want to tell it. And sometimes it's just like, okay. And truth can be confrontational. I'm telling you what I see. I know you're not going to like it. All right? But a lot of times we hold back because we know people are not going to like it. They're not going to receive it. But we're called to be truth tellers. All right? And it's not always easy. It is not always easy. All right? But you got to decide, and sometimes you got to try to be clever, like Micaiah was. He started off by saying, all right, I'm going to agree with you. But then when Ahab was like, well, I know you just agreeing just to agree. Tell me what you really know. How do you really see things turning out? And then he told him the truth. Let's keep going, though. We got more here. And look what it says in 39. Now the rest of the acts of Ahab and all that he did, and the ivory house, boy, he had a beautiful ivory house, which he made, and all the cities that he built. He was one that produced a lot of luxury, right? And are they not written in the books of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel? Now, what that means is when we get to the books of Chronicles, we're going to see this story again from a different perspective. All right, so keep that in mind. We will go back to this. 40. So Ahab slept with his fathers, and Ahaziah, his son, reigned in his stead. All right, so it's letting you know that Ahab died, and his son is now reigning. So we're going to get now just some more sequencings of what's being.
So they're saying he's dead. He slept with his father's dead too.
It's saying that he's dead. Ahab is dead. That means when he says he slept with his father, that means he's dead.
Oh, okay.
All right. So now we're going to look at.
I think the fathers is not just his immediate father, but also his ancestors.
His ancestors.
His ancestors, yeah, because it says fathers, right?
Yeah.
Got an S on the end.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. And so in verse 42, we now get a little bit what's going on with the reign of Jehoshaphat. It says Jehoshaphat was 30 and 5 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 20 and 5 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Azarabath, and his daughter, the daughter of Shirohai. All right. Now, some people say, well, why was Jehoshaphat kind of in alliance with Ahab? The theory or the theologians kind of say that it's possible that Jehoshaphat married one of the daughters of Jezebel, Ahab and Jezebel. All right. I don't have no reason to disagree with that, but I also don't have no reason to confirm it either. All right. Verse 43. And he walked in all the ways of Asa his father, and turned not aside from it. Now this is Jehoshaphat. He walked in the ways of Asa, and Asa was a good king, doing that which was right in the sight of the Lord. Nevertheless, now here's the thing we always got to keep in mind. You love God, I love God, and we do good. But there's a nevertheless in our story. There's a nevertheless in my story, and there's a nevertheless in your story. Why? Because none of us are perfect. There's things that you do, and God will applaud you for what you're doing. But you got a nevertheless. I have a nevertheless. And sometimes we don't see it. Now, maybe other people see it, but we don't see it. We got some neverthelesses in our lives. Nevertheless, the high places were not taken down, taken away. For the people offered burnt incense yet in the high places. And what were the high places? What did they do? Those were temples to false gods. Most of the time, the reason why they were so alluring was that they housed the temple prostitutes. And so the religion was not just religious aspect, it was religious with sexual conduct immersed into it. And that's so they didn't go see the priest. They went to go see the priest was a temple prostitute. And that's why a lot of that was still popular. All right, because that's one of the things that feeds the flesh. All right. And so we'll see some more of this in just a bit. So you'll see that this is all connected. 44. And Jehoshaphat made peace with the king of Israel. All right, so once again, he made peace with the king of Israel. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's just pointing it out. It didn't work out well for him. He didn't gain anything. He went to Assyria with Ahab, and they lost the battle, and Ahab lost his life. Jehoshaphat, though, did not lose his life. These are just some of the neverthelesses. All right, verse 45. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoshaphat and his might that he showed, and how he warred against let me read this again. And how he warred, are they not written in the books of the chronicles of the kings of Judah? 46. And the remnant of the Sodomites. Now, this is once again, this was another one of the temple practices that they did. The first one was where, you know, men would go into these temple women prostitutes, but they also had homosexual religious aspects as well. Now, Jehoshaphat got rid of those. Look at 46. And the remnants of the Sodomites, which remained in the days of his father Asa, he took out of the land. So Asa didn't get rid of the Sodomites, but Jehoshaphat did. Okay? But he also kept the temple prostitutes. So, see, there's neverthelesses in all of us. Asa was a good king, but he kept and he held on to the Sodomites. Jehoshaphat was a good king, but he held on to the high places. You're a good child of God, but you got something that you're hanging on to. Maybe you know it, maybe you don't. I believe I'm a servant of God, but I got stuff that I hang on to. Some of it I don't know about, some of it I do. What do we do with all that? We bring it to the Lord. But the first thing you got to do is tell the truth to yourself. Mm-hmm. Be your own Micaiah. Tell yourself the truth. Okay? Admit that you got some stuff you hanging on to, and ask God to help you with it.
Yes.
Okay? 47. There was then no king in Edom. A deputy was king. So letting you know, in Edom there was no king. This is just giving you some other surrounding aspects. And remember, Edom are the descendants of Esau. Okay? 48. Jehoshaphat made ships of Tarshish to go to Ophir for gold. Jehoshaphat had this plan to go and get some gold from another land, but they went not, for the ships were broken at Gibber. So Jehoshaphat had this great idea to go get some gold from another land, trying to go get some riches. You know, I see this good investment we can invest in, but the ships broke down. Sometimes we see a lot of things. I want to invest in this. It's going to make me rich. And God doesn't allow it to happen. Because God wants you to trust in what? Him.
Yeah.
And that's what God wanted Jehoshaphat to trust in. So the ships broke down. His whole investment concept did not work. Then Azariah, the son of Ahab, unto Jehoshaphat, let thy servants go with thy servants into the ships. But Jehoshaphat would not. So he's like, okay, I learned my first time. When the ships broke down the first time, I recognized God didn't want me to go. So he's like, I'm not going. All right? And so Jehoshaphat, he would learn from his mistakes. And that's why he was what? A good king. Not because he was perfect. King David is described as a man after God's own heart. Not because he was perfect, but because he did learn from his evil ways. We all got evil ways. And do you want God to show you your evil ways? Yes, I want to know them. It may make me sad. It may break my heart. But God, I'm really like this. And so God help me then to change. Verse 50. And Jehoshaphat slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David, his father. And Jehoram, his son, reigned in his stead. You know, see, I got problems with all these names. And Azariah, the son of Ahab, began to reign over Israel and Samaria 17 years. of Jehoshaphat's king of Judah and reigned 2 years in over Israel. All right, so it's just giving you the descendants that came after Ahab and Jehoshaphat, and we're going to get more into them as we move along into our next book, 2 Kings. But now this is the king that followed Ahab. Look at what they say about him, his son. 52, and he did evil in the sight of the Lord and walked in the ways of his father and in the ways of his mother. Who was his father? Ahab. Who was his mother? Jezebel.
Jezebel.
Okay. And in the way of Jehoram. Jehoram was the first king of Israel. All right. And he was an evil king, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. He was the first one. He was the first one to take Israel out of the connection from God. 43, for he served Baal and worshipped him. Remember, Elijah had got rid of the prophets of Baal, and now Ahab's son is bringing it what? He's bringing it back. Why is he bringing it back? Because his mama is still alive, and his mama is helping him bring this back. We'll talk about that a little bit later when we get in our next chapter. And provoked the anger of the Lord God of Israel according to all his father had done. And now the book of 1 Kings ends there. So, as you can see, it don't matter whether you're small or great, doing evil has no respect of person. And the key, though, is are you going to accept God and allow God to help you overcome our own desires that would be against that which God wants? Or are we going to go and turn our desires into our God, which is what a lot of times people do. And so you can see that the book of 1 Kings ends this way, with bad leadership, bad decisions, and bad outcomes. So we're going to stop here. Any comments or questions on what we talked about today?